Okay, let's take a look at do-while loops. Do-while loops, they're just the same as while loops, but there's a slight difference between them. They are basically the same, but there's a slight difference. So do-while loops, they do the same thing. They are used to execute a statement repeatedly if a condition is true, just like while loops. But the difference is do while loops, they do before they check the condition. So they don't start by checking the condition. Remember, in while loops, the while is on top of the statement. But in do while loops, the statement is above the while. So before it checks the condition, first it executes the statement. That's the difference between while and do while loops. It's basically simple. Remember in the last session we wrote a program for grandma that displays cat 5 times. So right now let's try doing that using a do while loop. As usual, first we need to declare a variable. This is our control variable. It's going to be in charge of the condition. And then instead of writing while, we start by writing do, and we write our curly brackets under that, just like we do in the normal while loop. And in these curly brackets, we are going to encode our statement. In our case, we want to display the word cat 5 times. We are just going to code a statement that will do that. And then right now we need to keep num up to date. So we need to keep increasing it by 1 so that it doesn't go into infinite. And then we're just gonna give num control and put it in our condition space. We are going to run this and see what's going to happen. Oops, we got an error. What's going on? Well, that's because we forgot a semicolon in front of the while loop. So just make sure that you put a semicolon in front of this while loop. Sometimes it's confusing when you're writing a do while loop and a while loop. You might forget to put a semicolon because while loops don't have semicolons, but do while loops have semicolons, so it might confuse you sometimes. So when you get an error, check the semicolon if it's there and put it if it's not there. Well, here's a question that I want us to do together. A company has given each of its employees their company code. Write a program that will prompt each employee to enter their code. If the employee is done, they should press X to exit. This is a quite complicated code, but I'm just going to hold your hand right through it. First, we need to declare variables. In our case, our control variable will be a character, since the employee has to press X to exit the code, which means X is a character. So we're just going to declare a character of variable digit, and we're going to write our while loop. Right now, we need to ask our employee to enter their digit. So it's 1 digit at a time. So just gonna ask them to enter their digit code here. So, and then we're gonna write our cin function and write our digit variable where our digit will be stored. And now right now we need to write our while loop and give it our control variable that's going to control this while loop. Remember, they have to press X to exit the code. So it's going to be while digit is not equals to X. So it's like while the employee hasn't entered X yet, keep asking them for the next code. And right now we need to let the employee know what's going on by letting them know what to press to when they are done. So remember, you put it outside of the loop. You put this kind of messages outside the loop, because if you put them inside, they will become displayed repeatedly and it's not going to look good. As you can see, the code is working fine. I'm just going to enter my codes here and it's working just fine. I just press X, it exits, everything looks good, uh, but it doesn't display our code when we're done. So we're just going to declare a variable that will store each and every code after it's entered, and it's going to be a string variable. I'm going to explain in a moment why I'm using a string variable and why I'm using double quotation marks that are empty. But right now we need to store each and every digit that is entered inside this result. and it needs to keep storing them until the user is done inputting the code. So this is it, and we need to display the result. Remember, you put it outside of the loop. The the line that displays the result, you put it outside the loop, because if you put it inside, it's going to keep repeating it over and over again. Just try and put it inside the loop. You're going to see what's going to happen. And we're just going to write the appropriate message that will display the results for us, and we're going to run this. It takes a few minutes to run a program. You have to be a bit patient. It's still executing every line. As you can see, it's asking me to enter my digit. Let's say I'm going to enter my first digit, which is 1, 2, and I'm going to enter S, A, and X to exit. As you see, it displays every digit, including the X, and I don't like that. So I don't like it that it's displaying X. It mustn't display X. We use X to exit the code. So how can I solve this problem? There are many ways, but I'm just going to show you one way to do it, which is using an if statement. So the problem is it stores X inside the result variable, which I don't like. So to solve this, you need to store each and every digit that is not X. So guess what the control variable will be? It's going to be if digit is not equal to X. That's because every digit that is not X, that is not exit, store it. But if the minute they press exit, don't store it inside the result variable. So that's what's going on here. Run this again, and I'm just going to enter my digit 1, 2, S, A, and exit. As you can see, it displays only the code. It doesn't display the X. So it worked. You can use this trick sometimes if you are facing the same problem. So right now, remember I said I was going to explain the result variable. Here, what's going on is it's going to add each and every digit to this empty variable. So let's change this to character and see what's going to happen. Let's say instead of using string, I'm going to use character. I'm going to run this. As you can see, I get an error. That's because character cannot take quotation marks with that are empty in them. So each time you do this using a character, you are going to get an error. So just make sure you use a string. I hope that rings a bell. So we're just going to put string right back where it belongs, and we're going to change this to double quotation marks. As you see a string has more power over character. There's more advantage over character. So if we run this, we're going to see what's going to happen. As you can see, the error is gone. Here's a question. In the last session, we used a while loop to display the timetable of 9. I want you to do the same but use a do while loop. Pause this video and get right to coding. What we have to do is first declare our control variable, and we're going to call it num. So int num, and we're going to initialize this variable by 1, since we'll be calculating numbers from 1 up to 10, and we're going to write our do, open close curly brackets, write a cout function. Remember that 9 times doesn't change throughout the timetable. You can write it as a string, and right next to that we're just gonna write the counter from 1 to 10. Remember again that equal sign doesn't change throughout the timetable, so we just write it as a string again, and then we are going to multiply num by 9, and we are going to skip a line. Then after that, we're going to update num so that it doesn't go into infinity. And then after that, we are going to write our condition statement, which is our while loop. and we are going to give it a condition that while it's less than 5. And let's run this and see what the output will be. It might take a while. I want you to look at how the structure of the do while loop is not so different from the while loop. The only difference is that the do while loop does before it checks the condition. As you can see, the output is the same. So if you didn't get some of the stuff I've covered in this section, I want you to go back and watch again. Thanks for joining me.